I think the one thing in trying to be a picture book author, and I say trying to be because I'm fairly sure that Phil and I both think between books, you know, you're never absolutely certain the next book is going to come out or be accepted, so you're always sort of on this edge, and people think you're sort of secure in where you are, but that's not the case, because you need another idea that works and you can get to work. And that's the key point. If you're trying to be a writer, you have to accept that you're going to write and rewrite and rewrite, and get some people to give you feedback that can read your work and will give you an honest response. And my mum, she's passed on now, but my mum used to be one of the people who would give me feedback, but it wasn't always, it was honest from her point of view, because it was always good. Whatever I did was great. But you need someone who's going to look at you and say, I don't think this works, I think this is a problem. My wife is very good at giving feedback, and we had some we're still married, I hasten to add, but she gave me some feedback early on, and we talked about how we could give feedback and use the thing about you can say something positive and then a couple of, you know, negative things or something like that. And it was only after that that I discovered that the word a couple could often mean 25 things. So it's yeah. So keep rewriting. Don't be happy with the first thing, and listen to the people who talk to you, because they're your readers. They're your readers.
And yeah, I echo that. I agree wholeheartedly with all of that. Because the great thing about someone that will give you honest feedback is that even though it might hurt initially, it makes you work harder. It makes you work better. It's the same as anyone that wants to achieve something or achieve a goal in a field that is sort of reasonably narrow, is that you must be able to do that. You must be able to adapt. And the passion will always be there if you're a storyteller. I always equate it to a professional sportsman or a professional musician. If you want to be good at something, you have to practice. And someone giving you feedback makes you practice, makes you work, makes you rework stuff, makes you revisit it. But all that aside, if you're a person that loves to tell stories, you must tell your stories. You must write your stories. Don't always, and I don't know about Mike, I'm sure it's the same, but I don't always write to get published. I write for so many different reasons. I write stories about my kids because I don't want to forget what happened that particular day with my children. And those were the stories that I will share with them now as they're growing up, because that connection is always there. And if you want to reach your children, you're finding that some of the books you pick up don't reach the children, then write their story and tell them their story as a book, or tell them as a piece of reading, or a shared story with the family, because that will make a difference. And that's what we're all here for. That's why we write. We want to make a difference to children's literacy and levels. And we want them to love our stories, but it doesn't always work. So sometimes, and that hard work doesn't ever go away. You know, people look at us from the outside, so they've published, you know, so many books together and or, you know, over their careers, but it doesn't mean the next one's going to be any easier.
The other thing I think is that you will find people who support you. So if you want to be a writer, there are associations and organisations like the Writers' Centre and so on, which work for people. And Phil and I have actually, our careers have paralleled one another. We had our first books out the same year and so on. So I know I can phone Phil anytime and talk to him about something, even though we've been in different countries and stuff like that.
That's right.
And there are lots of sort of coincidences, and we understand each other's situations. So as a writer, it's not totally isolated. There are other people who can help you through. So it's.
But it is choosing those people, isn't it? That can give you that feedback. People want to be nice to you. You know, you probably often have this. People come to you and say, "Look, I've written this story. My family love it, and my kids love it, and that's okay." But they're not necessarily being honest with you, and there are so many different variations and variables that come into play when you have a book published. You know, publishers will look at, how does this story work for me? What's already out there? How am I going to be able to market this? Who's going to be able to illustrate it? What's my targeted audience? There are so many different questions. It's not just a matter of, gee, people like this story. There are so many different variables, and it's taken us 25 years to learn that, hasn't it? So, and we're always learning, I find. You know.
Which makes me 45.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit older. So there's no short answer to that question, though, is there? We could talk for hours about that.
And the good news is there are different publishers, and they like different things. So if you send one to one publisher, they may not like it particularly, and you send it to someone else, and they say it's great.
So it's also good to
So it's
research
good.
what publishers are publishing at the time and see if you've got a story that'll fit.
Yeah.
And look at and make sure they're in Australia. That's what I guess that's the first point.